In this video, a homeowner association sued me after my house burned down because of a wildfire. They claimed my burnt down property is lowering property values in the neighborhood and it is my fault. Here is what happened. Welcome back to Ripe Stories. I was a high school teacher for 32 years before retiring. My wife and I had saved up and bought our dream home in a planned community in Southern California. A beautiful Spanish-style house with a red tile roof that we absolutely adored. Living there was great at first. I spent my retirement tending to our garden, which became something of a local attraction. The previous HOA board even featured it in their monthly newsletter. But everything changed when Patricia, let's call her Pat, became the HOA president. She was a local real estate agent who treated the community like her personal little kingdom. From day one, Pat had issues with everything about our property. First it was our burgundy front door, too dark and gothic. Then our rose bushes were 2 inches above regulation height. We complied with their petty demands just to keep the peace, but nothing was ever good enough, and then came the summer. California was experiencing one of its worst droughts in decades. We'd been getting fire warning notices from the county for months. I'd already invested in fire-resistant landscaping and regularly cleared brush from our property, going above and beyond local requirements. Then suddenly, in July, everything changed. The wildfire came out of nowhere. One minute we were having breakfast, the next there were emergency vehicles racing down our street with evacuation orders. We barely had time to grab our photo albums and important documents before fleeing. I will never forget watching from the evacuation center as the fire crested the hill behind our house. By nightfall, our home of 3 years was gone, along with 12 others in the community. We were devastated, but counting our blessings that we were alive. Insurance was of course dragging their feet as expected. We were living in a small rental apartment while trying to navigate the claims process. And then, just 3 weeks after losing everything, we received a certified letter from the HOA. I still have that letter. It read, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. my name, your property at XYZ address is currently in violation of multiple HOA bylaws regarding property maintenance and aesthetic standards. You are required to submit a detailed rebuilding plan within 30 days and commence construction within 90 days. Your burnt-out property is creating an eyesore that is negatively impacting community aesthetics and property values. Failure to comply will result in daily fines and potential legal action." I was floored. I called Pat immediately, trying to reason with her. The conversation went something like this. Me, Pat, we just lost everything. We are still dealing with insurance. We cannot possibly already begin rebuilding that quickly. Pat, that's not the community's problem. Your property is affecting my ability to sell homes in the neighborhood. The bylaws don't make exceptions for natural disasters. Me, but this is completely unreasonable. We need time to… Pat interrupted me. What's unreasonable is expecting the rest of us to suffer because of your situation. Submit your plans in 30 days or there will be consequences. And well, true to her word, exactly 31 days later, we were served with a lawsuit from the HOA. They are suing us for breach of contract, claiming we are violating HOA bylaws and demanding immediate compliance plus $200 daily fines retroactively to the fire date. We are already stretched thin financially between temporary housing and fighting with insurance. I cannot believe they are doing this to us after losing everything in a natural disaster. Do we have any legal recourse here? Can they really force us to rebuild before we are ready or have insurance money? And by the way, guys, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but this story is also from r/legal advice. Either way, any advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit, thank you for all the responses. I'm meeting with a lawyer tomorrow and will update when I can. And now someone in the comments said, holy hell, this is a new low even for HOAs. No, they absolutely cannot force you to rebuild within their arbitrary timeline, especially following a natural disaster. Their demands are unconscionable and likely illegal. Document everything, get a lawyer who specializes in HOA law immediately. Many will do free consultations. You might have a strong case for a countersuit here. Comment number 2, not a lawyer, but my cousin went through something similar in '92 after Hurricane Andrew. Courts generally don't look kindly on HOAs that try to enforce unreasonable demands after natural disasters. Save that letter and any communications with Pat. Record all future interactions if your state allows it. Comment number 3, lawyer here. This is textbook harassment and possibly a breach of the HOA's fiduciary duty to its members. Their primary obligation is to protect homeowners' interests, not property values at any cost. The timing of their demands is particularly egregious here. You need to hire an attorney specializing in HOA law, document all communications with the HOA, get copies of all HOA board meeting minutes from the past year, contact your insurance company about providing legal defense, and file a complaint with your state's housing board. Another comment said, just pay the fines and rebuild quickly. You are bringing down everyone's property values. And by the way, guys, I think we spotted the HOA member in the comments. Another comment said, contact local media, HOAs hate bad publicity, and this story would make them look terrible. Also, check if other fire-affected homeowners are getting similar treatment, strength in numbers. Update to the story. So thank you all for the advice on my previous post. A lot has happened and not much of it good. Following your suggestions, I met with an HOA lawyer who was appalled by the situation. He took my case and we immediately filed a response to their lawsuit. The day after we filed our response, Pat apparently lost it. She started taking photos of our property daily, documenting what she calls ongoing violations, and then yesterday she even brought prospective buyers to stand in front of our burned lot, and I overheard her saying, "This is exactly why you need a strong HOA, to prevent situations like this." She was literally using our tragedy as a selling point for her real estate business. But here's where it gets worse. We finally got a hold of recent HOA documents through our lawyer, and it turns out that Pat had been planning this even before the fire. In a meeting just 2 months ago, she specifically discussed strengthening enforcement procedures for disaster-related property damage. She even had the bylaws quietly amended to remove a clause about reasonable accommodation for natural disasters that had been there since the 1980s. Our lawyer says that this is a huge deal because it was done without proper notice to homeowners, and we have also discovered that only the fire-affected homes owned by year-round residents are being targeted. The vacation homes owned by her real estate clients mysteriously are not receiving any violation notices. Anyway, we filed a countersuit yesterday for harassment and breach of fiduciary duty, and today I received another certified letter. The HOA is now demanding access to our insurance claim documents and threatening to put a lien on our property if we don't comply within 48 hours. So my questions, can they legally demand to see our insurance documents? And what happens if they put a lien on the property? Should we be worried about Pat's daily documentation? Is it worth trying to get other affected homeowners involved? Added, several neighbors have reached out secretly supporting us but are afraid of retaliation. Another comment said, lawyer here, this is getting better and better for your case. The selective enforcement alone is a massive issue. The unauthorized bylaw changes and failure to notify homeowners are just the icing on the cake. Don't give them your insurance documents, they have no right to them. A lien would be serious, but likely invalid given the circumstances. Keep documenting Pat's behavior, by the way. Comment number 2, get those other homeowners involved now. My firm handled a similar case in '93. Strength in numbers is crucial. If they are worried about retaliation, remind them that any retaliation would just add to the lawsuit damages. And another comment said, Pat's using your tragedy to sell houses? Contact your local realtor board immediately. That's highly unethical and could cost her her license. Comment number 4, I actually feel bad for Pat, she's just trying to protect everyone's property values. Maybe if you shared your rebuilding timeline. Comment number 5, ex-HOA board member here, the bylaw amendment without notice is a huge no-go. In my state, that alone could get the entire board removed. Also, Pat's daily documentation could actually help your case. It shows a pattern of harassment. Comment number 6, you need to document everything Pat is saying to prospective buyers about your property. That is potential defamation and interference with your property rights. Update number 2, following your advice, we've been documenting everything. Our lawyer helped us get a temporary restraining order against Pat after she was caught going into our property at 6 AM collecting evidence once again. The judge was not happy about that, and we also found 3 other fire-affected families willing to join our countersuit. One of them had recordings of Pat telling them that their insurance company was too slow and they should just take out a second mortgage to rebuild faster. Well, the real bombshell dropped yesterday. A former HOA board member contacted us with emails showing that Pat had been working with a developer who wanted to buy up fire-damaged properties at reduced prices. Apparently, she had been pressuring owners to sell quickly before property values tank. Our lawyer says that this is a game changer. We are amending our countersuit to include civil conspiracy and corruption charges. Court date is set for next month. I will update after the hearing. Final update, we won and then some. So first I want to thank this community for all the support and advice. You helped us stay strong through this nightmare, and now I can finally share how it all ended. The court hearing was intense, it lasted 3 full days and every minute was worth it. Our lawyer was incredible. He presented everything methodically, like building a brick wall of evidence. Here's how it went down. Day 1 started with the HOA's case. Their lawyer tried to paint me as an uncooperative homeowner who was selfishly disregarding community standards, but during cross-examination, our lawyer got Pat to admit that she had never experienced losing a home to disaster herself. The real turning point came when she couldn't explain why only certain homeowners were being targeted for violations. Then came the emails. Pat's face went white when our lawyer projected them on the courtroom screen. There she was in black and white discussing with the developer how to motivate fire victims to sell quickly. The judge's expression was thunderous, but the best moment came from an unexpected source. Remember that meeting where they changed the bylaws? The HOA's own secretary took the stand and admitted that she had concerns about the legality of the changes. She testified that Pat had told her to just leave that part out. The former board member's testimony was devastating. He explained how Pat had systematically pushed out anyone who disagreed with her aggressive enforcement policies. He shared a document showing how she had used her position to benefit her real estate business, including steering clients away from properties she deemed problematic. When our lawyer presented evidence that Pat had been conducting property showings using our burned lot as a cautionary tale, the judge actually interrupted proceedings to ask her directly, "Miss Morrison, are you using these people's tragedy to market properties?" Her response? "I'm just being transparent with buyers about community standards." The judge was not amused by this. The ruling came down yesterday. Here's what happened. The HOA's lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice, and we were awarded $175,000 in damages for harassment and emotional distress. The HOA must pay all our legal fees, over $50,000, and Pat and the entire board were ordered to resign. The judge invalidated all bylaw changes made under Pat's leadership. Additionally, the HOA must establish new disaster response guidelines with court oversight. Pat was referred to the state real estate board for ethics violations. But here's the best part. Pat resigned from the HOA board before the judge could force her out. She listed her house for sale the next day. Turns out she did not like what situations like this did to her property values after all. We are using part of the settlement to rebuild our home, this time with even better fire-resistant materials. The new HOA board, elected last week, has been incredibly supportive. They are even updating the community's emergency response plans and creating a homeowner assistance fund for future disasters. Some of our neighbors who initially stayed quiet have apologized for not speaking up sooner. One elderly couple brought us a home-cooked meal and cried while telling us how guilty they felt for being too scared to help us. We don't blame them though, Pat had everyone terrified. The developer who was working with Pat backed out of the community entirely after the lawsuit made local news. Apparently they didn't want to be associated with the scandal. Good riddance. Looking back though, I'm glad we fought instead of giving in. It was not just about our house anymore, it was about standing up to bullies who tried to profit from other people's tragedies. The new HOA president, a retired judge ironically, told me that our case is now required reading for all new board members. Oh, and Pat? Well, last I heard she moved to Arizona. Apparently California HOAs were not her style anymore. I hear she is selling timeshares now. For anyone dealing with HOA abuse, document everything, know your rights, and don't be afraid to fight back. Yes, sometimes the little guy does win, and to all of you who supported us through this, thank you. You helped us keep our sanity when things seemed hopeless. Sometimes internet strangers really are the best neighbors. P.S. Our new house is now finally finished. The door is burgundy and the roses are regulation height plus 2 inches, and there's not a thing anyone can do about it. And yeah guys, if you still enjoy the HOA stories, then please don't forget to subscribe to the channel because that would help me tremendously. The next one is a petty revenge story and it is super satisfying. So this was about 28 years ago. At age 16 I had my first job at Circuit City. Around the holidays, the prices for items would change and it was someone's assigned job to go around and place the new price tags. One day I was helping a couple who were confused about a tag on a brand new speaker. Now, I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was something like the tag read $1.99 and was supposed to be $199. Thinking back, if this were me, I would have bought all of them and called it a day, but they were not a scummy couple and wanted to know what the actual price was. It was ringing in at $1.99, so I went and got the manager. Alongside the couple in the aisle, we all looked at the tags and he started screaming at me, "Are you stupid?" and had his pointy finger in my face while yelling. The couple left the store without purchasing anything, and my day went on being scolded by him. Even though it was not my fault that it was mislabeled, he made me feel like it was. I should have noticed it and must be so dumb. I took the abuse because I feared being fired from my first job, and right before Christmas, my next shift was a few days later and I was immediately called into his office. I was having a panic attack and here we go, I'm getting fired, I thought. Well, it turns out that the couple was so disgusted by his behavior that they called the company and complained. I sat in his office with a manager from another location while he apologized to me and then left. I later found out that he lost his job. Petty revenge was from the couple's complaint about him, but I appreciated it nonetheless. And now we got another petty revenge story that you don't want to miss. So this happened 10 years ago and I have a very common name in Spanish. My email is my first dot last at Gmail. I've had this email for so long that I cannot even remember. I'm not sure why, but it seems a lot of people don't understand how email works, so I end up receiving their bank statements, bills, etc. Always from different people, their middle names are always different. Anyway, I started receiving meeting notes from this random company, spreadsheets, presentations, etc. I kindly replied to them explaining that they have the wrong email, but no one ever listened. One day I get added to a group chat, some discontinued Google product, so I joined the chat. I see they start talking about some customer and start asking questions. I start offering my opinion, I just make it up as I go. Some of my responses are starting to make no sense, then I just go full on bananas and start telling them that they are all idiots for not checking their emails before sending invites. The meeting went silent, I was kicked out of the chat room a second later. I continued to cause some drama by editing the titles of their documents to "You should seriously double check who you are sharing documents with." I had such a good laugh. They were not very tech savvy, as I had access to the files for a while and went back to see them and then changed the titles back. After 2 weeks I got bored and just removed the docs from my drive, never had an email from them again. Curiously though, this situation has happened more than once with different entities. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story about family drama. We had a family dinner this evening. My family has 4 kids in total, me, my elder sister 29 female, younger sister 24 female, and youngest brother 22 male. Extended family attended our family dinner, so all of our significant others, our cousins, aunts and uncles, etc. During the dinner, my elder sister and youngest brother got into a mild disagreement. My sister seemed, at least to me, to be coming across as very aggressive out of frustration and losing said argument. The two of them were too absorbed in their argument to realize the rest of us were getting a bit fed up. Eventually, my sister got really fed up and said, "Shut up, I'm not gonna argue with a 22-year-old virgin." My brother had not done any personal attacks up until that point, it was completely unprovoked. I think it might have been the alcohol, as my sister is a mean drunk. Anyway, I immediately told my sister to grow up and that she was making an embarrassment of herself. She replied by saying everyone knows that he's a virgin and she didn't say anything wrong. This annoyed me, as my bro definitely has confidence issues and does not need to be made fun of like this. So I responded by saying how she slept with well over 100 men while she was in college, and that since everyone in the family knows this, it's not a big deal, right? It turns out her husband did not know this amazingly. I genuinely assumed he must have known. Anyway, he left the party and is angrily saying my sister misled him about her past. My family is blaming me for their marital problems now. I refuse to accept that I did anything wrong. My sister bullied my brother in front of everyone. All I did was give her a taste of her own medicine. And yeah, Ripe Stars, usually I would say stay out of other people's affairs and just let them do what they want, especially when it is family. However, I do respect OP for defending his brother. Maybe the way he did it could have been done more delicately or something, but I'm not sure that I would say that OP is the a-hole here. Either way, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Comment number 1, not the a-hole. People really need to learn not to dish out if they cannot take it. Simple as that. Comment number 2, everyone sucks here. Your sister obviously was the a-hole for spouting off about your brother with hurtful intentions, but you were also the a-hole for doing the same thing back to her, even though you were just sticking up for your brother. Your family's the a-hole too for blaming you for the marital problems because your sister created those problems herself by misleading her husband about her past. Comment number 3, not the a-hole, your sister made it personal and could not handle taking what she dished out. And yeah, ripe stars, for the most part I would say I agree with the comments, but then again, this is quite a toxic family, at least this part of the family. Let me know what you think in the comments, I'm curious about what you have to say. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I was fortunate when I bought my house because not every home in the area has a private driveway. Mine is one of the newer houses, so during the design of it, a driveway was installed and it's really nice to have. It's wide enough to fit 2 cars side by side and goes in enough that if you're careful, you can fit about 8 cars. I love this because it means when I host the holiday parties, it's fairly easy for my family to find parking during the time of year when finding street parking can be a nightmare. Speaking of nightmares, I would like to introduce you to my neighbor who is just insane. I don't feel comfortable using real names, so I will just call her Satan. Now, Satan has always been jealous that we have a driveway while she is stuck parking on the street. We have had many conversations of her trying to say my driveway is wide because it was made for both of the homes. I double-checked this to make sure that I was not in the wrong. And I was not, and my driveway is 100% on my property. Now, if she was a nice woman, I might let her park under normal circumstances. Her name in this is not Satan for no reason though. She is the nastiest woman I've ever come across, and multiple times I had to stop her from fighting people that I hired over the years. She tried to stop somebody from pruning my trees, from cleaning my gutters, and even digging up the yard because I had to get a new septic tank installed. She gets into everybody's business and verbally abuses every single person she comes across. So no, of course, she is not allowed to use my driveway. My family came to visit for the holiday as I decided to play host that year. We tend to swap off between me, my siblings, and a couple cousins who get to host. We are not that big of a family anymore, so we really try to all meet for the holidays. Anyway, my driveway was packed with their cars and we had an amazing night of dinner, jokes and games. It was late by the time everybody started leaving and for us to find something shocking when we opened the door. The driveway was empty and every single car was now gone. I did see Satan standing outside and smiling at me, so I knew that she had something to do with all of this. Me, did you see what happened to all the cars in my driveway? Satan, yes, I towed them because they were on my half. Me, I told you before, you don't have a half. You just towed my entire family's car from my private property driveway. I was too tired to fight with her and just walked away to call the police. They came and Karen told her story of it being half her driveway and that we were parking illegally on it. I don't know what her excuse for getting the cars on my half towed was. Since this has been an issue with her, I have documents showing where the property line is and that the driveway is actually mine. So then she gets a citation for the illegal towing and a date to show up in court and pay for the cost of getting the cars out. The thing was that the tow yard was closed at this time of night. This meant everybody had to find some space to sleep in my house and it was not the nicest fit. I actually ended up sleeping on the floor and giving my bed to 2 of my aunts. They all understood, but were just as pissed off at Satan as I was. It was the holiday season and I wanted to be a good person and just drop the entire thing once my family got their money back. Satan did not like that and I won with the police that night and came up with a brand new plan. This one being, if she couldn't have my driveway, then nobody could. I did not know what she was doing until I heard the sound of the jackhammer outside my house. Don't ask me where she got it because to this day I don't have the answer to that. Anyway, she was using it to destroy as much of my driveway as possible. I secretly recorded what she was doing for a few minutes while staying inside my house in fear of her plus something that dangerous. I called the police again saying that there was a crazy woman outside my house with a jackhammer destroying my property. By the time they got there, I would say about half of the driveway was broken from her antics. Even once they got there, she didn't want to turn it off and stop her destruction. It was not until the cop pulled something out that I think was a taser did she finally turn it off and put her hands in the air. At that point, it was considered safe and an officer came to my door. "Officer, sir, you called about this woman?" Me? Yes, she lives next door and I heard her with the jackhammer destroying my property. Just so you know, she's probably gonna claim it's half her driveway, but I can give you the papers that show it's not true. Officer, I might want those in a moment. But first I want to just confirm that she didn't have any permission to be on the property or do any kind of work. Me? No, she didn't. I even got a recording of her from when I noticed her starting until you arrived. She's gotten citations for illegal towing from the driveway before. I just want her to leave me alone. Officer, I can assure you we will take this matter seriously. We have her on trespassing, destruction of property, and possible operation of a jackhammer without a proper license. Me? Thank you, officer. They didn't want the recording or paperwork, but the courts needed it for their case against Satan. I also threw in the report from that night at the holidays because why not show how this was not the first issue on record. She does not deny doing anything wrong and claiming that she is allowed because it was her driveway. She was found guilty on all 3 counts but didn't actually end up going to jail. She did, however, get a few months of house arrest and then probation. I filed for a restraining order as well because I didn't want her to be anywhere near me. It might have been a problem except that she decided that in addition to property lines not applying to her, neither did the orders of the court. It only took 2 days for her to break the house arrest or house curfew, I don't really know the term. Anyway, that meant she was taken to prison for a little while before being let out again. Then another few days passed before she broke the restraining order and ended up getting taken to jail again for a couple months. I don't know if it was for finances or if her lawyer recommended it, but she finally ended up selling her house. That was also a process because the real estate agent realized that she couldn't have Satan anywhere near the potential buyers because she kept scaring them. Telling them the neighbor, me, was insane and would get them arrested the moment they moved in. Also, she kept lying and telling buyers that they would be getting the driveway as well as my actual house. Like a 2-for-1 house deal or something crazy. Eventually, it did get sold once she was removed from the process and then I never saw her again. I still have the restraining order in place, but I have a feeling she is either long gone or back in jail for something stupid. Edit, I forgot to mention, obviously she had to pay me a huge fine for the destruction of my driveway. I guess that is partially the reason why she had to sell her house as well. And of course, before we end the video, I will read one last malicious compliance story that you don't want to miss. It is brand new. It's titled, Insurance Rep Insists on Following the Rules Until She Realizes the Cost. So back in the mid-2010s, I had my phone insured through a premium bank account. The deal was simple, pay a fixed access and they would either repair or replace your phone. The access was the same, whether it was a cracked screen or a full replacement, so it seemed like a solid arrangement. One day I cracked my phone screen, it still worked fine and I had a holiday coming up, so I decided to wait until I got back to file a claim. When I finally called the insurance company, the representative asked when the damage had happened, so I told her honestly. And that is where the trouble started. She explained that I had waited too long to report the damage, that there was a time limit for claims, around 10 days, and that I had missed it. I explained that the phone was still usable and I had needed it for my trip, but she wouldn't budge. Rules were rules, she said, and my claim was invalid. Her tone was borderline smug. Fine, I thought, let's try some preemptive MC. Me, what should I do if the phone gets damaged even further? Rep, you need to call us back and file a new claim, but make sure it's within the time frame. Me, okay, got it. And I cannot include the existing screen damage, right? Rep, correct. The new claim would have to be for unrelated damage. She seemed oblivious to where this was going, so I pressed on. Me, so how likely is it that a cracked screen could lead to water damage? If water got in and fried the motherboard, you would most likely have to replace the whole phone, right? There was a long pause and then she said she needed to speak to her supervisor. When she came back, her tone had changed and suddenly they were willing to overlook the missed time frame and process my original claim for the cracked screen. And yeah guys, if you enjoyed the stories, please post some star emojis in the comments and I will see you again tomorrow.